it is absolutely basics. I will teach from absolutely basics. Okay, so without furthering delay, let's dive into this topic. Okay, so if you haven't created the player script, just go over to project folder. Okay, sorry, project tab. Okay, and then go to assets and right click, create C# script. Name that script to player and select the player. Okay, and drag it to the add component, or also you can do add component. You can find the player script by typing like player, player clear, as you can see, and hit enter. Okay, it will also do. So what we're gonna do, double click it. Okay, double click it to open up in Visual Studio. uh, Visual Studio. Okay, as you can see, the by default we have got two function, the start function and the update function. Okay, start function get call when the game start. Okay, it just call one time, and the update function over here get call every time, like in 1 second it pass 60 frames, and you can imagine. Okay, it's calls again and again. So what we gonna do, uh, if we select the player. Okay, if we select the player, we're gonna move left and right. Okay, we're gonna move left and right. So Unity has a function, okay, inbuilt function which checks where you want to go. Oh, okay, left and right. So if we head over to as Unity. Okay, this function is we have to type input. Okay, input dot get axis. Okay, input dot get axis. By quotation you can pass vertical will be in the y direction. So we want to move in the x direction. Okay, x axis. Okay, we want to move in the x axis. So what we have to do over here, we need to pass horizontal. Okay, we have to pass horizontal. We have to pass horizontal. So what this does. Okay, so it checks on your keyboard. Let's suppose it checks on your keyboard. If you press the D key. Okay, if you press the D key, this will be 1. Input dot get access horizontal will be 1. Okay, if you press the D key. Okay, if you press the D key, and if you press the A key, this input dot get access horizontal will be -1. Okay, this input dot get access will be -1 if you press the A key. Let's suppose you don't press anything like that, so input dot get access will be 0. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna put it into a variable are like just a containers. Okay, which holds values. Okay, so we're gonna go to top of the class, we're gonna assign, we're gonna make it public. We have to make it public because we can so we can see in the inspector. You don't need to make this public, you can set it to private. Okay, so I'm gonna make it public for explanation. Public. Okay, public. We this variable type will be float. Okay, float basically those mean those numbers which comes with decimals numbers. Okay, like 5 1 2 3 4, then 1.1 1.2. Okay, just like that. We're gonna say call it this will be float type variable. We have to name the variable. We will call this movement. Okay, movement. Okay, movement. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna set movement. Okay, movement equal to this. Basically if you press the D key, this input dot get access will be 1, so the movement over here will be 1. If you press the A key, this input dot get access will be -1. Okay, so the movement over here will be -1. If you press nothing, this will be 0, so the movement will be 0, because we directly setting it to input dot get access movement equal to input dot get access horizontal. And then control S on your keyboard to save this script. Okay, whatever you write to save. And head over to Unity, it will compile for a bit. Okay, compile for a bit, and you will able to see in the player script the movement field will appear. By default it will be 0. Okay, by default it will be 0 because we don't didn't set anything like that by default, so that will be 0. and whenever we play the game, if we press the D key, so the movement will go over to 1, and if we press the A key, the movement over here, as you can see, we can able to see, because we made this public. Okay, if you erase the public, by default it will set to private, we won't able to see in the inspector, so we need to make public to see in the inspector. Okay, so as you can see, so if I hit play, okay, if I hit play and if I hold down D key on the keyboard, okay, the movement over here will be 1. If I hold down A key, the movement over here will be -1. Whatever we doing, okay, whatever we doing, we putting into this movement variable, and variable are just like containers to hold values. If I now hold down alt, okay, sorry, hold down D key on keyboard, it will be 1. If I don't press anything like that, the movement becomes 0. Okay, if I press the A key, or if I hold down A key, this will be -1, as you can see. Okay, and if I press nothing, this will be 0. Okay, basically input dot get access horizontal checks what you are doing. If you pressing the A key or D key, it checks. Okay, it checks. If you press the A key, this will be -1, so the movement over here will be -1. We are putting it directly to this movement. Okay, uh, so what we gonna do, we're gonna move over to the x-axis only, we're not gonna move in the y-axis or in the z-axis. So what we need, as you can see in the inspector transform, if you select the player, if you take a look in the inspector, as you can see, transform component by default it attach. Okay, so it has position, rotation and scale. As you can see, if I play around with x-axis of this a game object or player, so it's just changing the x axis through x axis, as you can see. So we need this x. Okay, so firstly we need this transform, then we are going to this position, and we're gonna replace this x to by our movement. As we know, movement checks if we pressing D key or A key. Okay, so we're gonna replace this by our movement. So what we need to do, so if I head over to script, we're gonna do transform. Okay, transform, we need that transform dot position. Basically transform dot position over here means the current position. Okay, we means the current position. Then what we're gonna do, we're gonna add to current position our x-axis. So what we need, we're gonna say plus equal. Okay, we're gonna add to our current position, we're gonna make new. Okay, you have to type new and then vector 3, and vector 3 has x, y and z axis. Okay, vector 3 has x axis, y axis and the z axis, but we only want to move the character in the x axis, we're not gonna move in the y axis or in the z axis. If I hit this, the z axis. Okay, so we want the character to move around just x axis only. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna replace x axis by this movement. Okay, by this movement, and movement over here, as you can see, it will be 1, 0 or -1. If we press the a key, this will be -1, so over here the movement will be -1. So the player, so we are adding to current position. Okay, so the x position will be -1, so it will go left. Okay, it will go left. But if we press the D key, input dot get axis will be 1, so the movement will be 1, so the movement over here in the x will be 1. So if we set to 1, so as you can see, it will go right. Okay, so that's the logic behind it. So we don't want to move in the y axis. Okay, we don't want to move this in the y axis, so we're gonna put in the x axis, sorry, y axis to 0, and as well in the z axis to 0. So we're gonna put 0. Okay, 0 in the y axis and z in the 0. Okay, so control s on your keyboard and head over to Unity. We also need to make a speed parameter. Okay, how much fast should we go left and right. So if we don't do that, so the movement will be -1 or +1 or 0. So it will move by 1 unit or +1 unit to the right side. Okay, right or left. Oh, just wait for to compile. Okay, just wait for to compile. And if we hit play, okay, if we hit play, if we hit play and if we press A or D key, it will just go around left and right. If we don't press anything like that, it will be 0, so the movement will be 0. As you can see, we can go, but as you can see, if I press the D key, it going right. If I press the A key, it going left. Okay, but we need to multiply our movement with time dot delta time. Okay, we need to because this update function gets called 60 time. Okay, 60 time in 1 second. So basically if we press the D key, so the movement will be 60, because this update function get called 60 time in 1 second. Okay, by default this will be 1, but we are calling this 60 times, 60 into 1, which became 60 frames. So to make frame rate independence, we need to multiply this with time dot delta time. Okay, time dot, okay, time dot delta time. So it will move in the same 1 unit by 1 unit. Okay, so we just fixing that. Okay, time dot delta time means basically that mean it will restrict. Okay, it will restrict the speed or the movement. Okay, it will just go around one frame by one frame. Okay, 1 unit by 1 unit. If we hit play, okay, if we hit play, we will able to see the player will move so slowly. So we also need to assign an speed. Okay, just wait for to compile, I will explain that. Okay, so as you can see, it's going so slowly. So what we gonna do, we're gonna make a speed parameter. Okay, we're gonna multiply our speed to this movement, so we will able to like move around by that speed. So what we need to do, and go to the top. Okay, top of the class, we're gonna assign, we're gonna make it public, because we will able to see, or we can adjust the value in the inspector. Okay, we this variable will be float type. Okay, float type, and we will call this speed. By default you can set to any value like 2.5, 2.5, something like that, or 1.1, or 1234. So by default I am going to set something like 3.1. Okay, f. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna multiply this movement with our speed. So we will go by this much of speed. Okay, so we're gonna multiply this. Okay, we're gonna multiply this. We have to type star. The star means basically the multiplication, it's work multiplication, like multi. So speed, and and control as on your keyboard. So the movement will be 1, and we are multiplying with speed. So this will be 3.1. Okay, 3.1, and we also multiplying with time dot delta time, which make frame rate independence. Let's imagine you have fast computer. Okay, so the update function run 120 frames in 1 second, but my computer is too laggy. So it will run 60 frame in 1 second. But multiplying with time dot delta time make frame rate same. Means whatever computer you are using, it will run same amount of frame in 1 second, like 60 in my 60 frames in 1 second. So as well in your computer, it will run in 1 second 60 frame. So that's the meaning of multiplying time dot delta time, and we are multiplying with speed. So control s on your keyboard and head over to Unity. You will able to see we will move around by 3.5 3.1 1 unit, as we assigned the speed. Okay, just wait for to compile. We will able to see the speed parameter over here in the player script because we set it to public. Okay, we set it to public. If we head over to script again, if we don't assign, if you just remove this, okay, if you just remove this public, by default it set private. Okay, by default it says private, we won't able to see in the inspector. Okay, so by default so we need to make it public. And if you make this private, okay, if you make this private, it also means private, we won't able to see in the inspector. Okay, so that's why we need to make it public. Okay, we need to make it public. Okay, so if I head over to Unity, as you can see the speed parameter we can able to see because we made that public. So if we now play, we will go left and right by this amount of unit 3.1. okay, you can adjust the value in the inspector, that's why we made that public. Okay, you can move play around this speed parameter. Okay, now if I go left, as you can see we are going left and right. If I'll select this like 10 unit, okay, we will move around around with this much of speed in the left and right. As you can see it's going fast. Okay, so that is for this video. As you can see plus icon over here, basically this mean we need to go over to inspector, select the game object and go over to inspector overrides. You will able to see an override, so just click on that and hit apply. What it will do, it will change in the prefab as well. Okay, prefab as well. If we lost this game object, okay, if we lost this game object in the scene view or hierarchy, we won't able to restore it. That's why we need to make it prefab. So if I head over to assets, as you can see over here a player prefab, let's delete from this scene view. Okay, scene view or hierarchy. Okay, and I can drag it. As you can see all of the settings or change it has, we set it 3.1. okay, so we have the save option, that's why we need to make it public. Sorry, we need to make it prefab, so we will not we will able to restore it if we lost somehow. Okay, so that is so what we gonna do, uh, we're gonna jump we're gonna, as you can see, when we move, okay, when we press the A key, the movement becomes -1, and so we are multiplying with 3.1 the movement, so the speed become the x becomes -3.1 f. okay, but if we press the A key, we're not looking in the left direction. okay, we are not looking in the left direction, we always facing the right direction. okay, we always facing the right direction. So in order to do this, we need to keep track of which direction we are looking. okay, so we're gonna make a variable which will be a bool variable, which will be true or false. okay, which will be true or false. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna keep track of. okay, we need to make it public. You don't need to make it public. For explanation, I'm just making it public. So we will create bool. So this is also a variable which is bool. Bools basically means it will be true or false. We also have to name this bool to, we're gonna name it facing right, and we're gonna set it to true, because as you can see we are facing right. okay, we are facing right, that's why we made by default our bool to true. If we control s on your keyboard and head over to Unity, you will able to see a bool parameter appear. okay, it will be checked. okay, it will be checked. So just wait for to compile, you will able to see the bool parameter. okay, the bool parameter which will be true. By default it will ticked. okay, by default it will tick because we always facing right. As you can see the facing right in bool appear and it's checked. okay, so what we gonna do, whenever we press the A key, okay, whenever we press the A key, okay, so this over here becomes -1, so the movement over here became -1, okay, the movement becomes -1. So what we are going, so we are just going to the left direction, but we are not looking in the left direction. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna uncheck this, we're gonna set facing right to false, because we are going in the left direction. We're gonna set the facing direction, facing right to false, because we are no longer facing. So what we're gonna do, we need to head over to script, okay. So we're gonna check over here. This is if condition. If condition basically means it, in between first bracket you have to write a condition which should be true, like 3, like let's suppose 5 is greater than 4. Is it true? Yes, it is true, and you have to make this curly bracket, okay. So basically 5 is greater than 4, which is true. So if this condition is true, in between this curly bracket whatever you write, okay, it will execute, it will happen, okay. So the condition between this first bracket should be true, whatever you write it should be true. So in the curly bracket whatever you write it will be true. The condition in the first bracket should be true, okay. As we know 5 is greater than 4, so whatever we write in this in between this curly bracket, it will execute or it will happen. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna check, okay, we're gonna check if movement, okay, movement is lesser than 0f, so sorry 0f. As we know, whenever we press the A key, so the input dot get axis horizontal became -1, so the movement over here will be -1, which we know lesser than 0f, -1 is lesser than 0f. And we have to type, and you have to type this and double, okay. And if we are facing right equals to true, or you can set it like facing right by default, it's also mean true. So if we pressing the a key, so the input dot get axis over here becomes -1, so the movement over here became -1, okay, which is we know it is lesser than 0f, -1 is lesser than 0f, and we are facing right, okay. We are facing right. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna flip the character. So we need to go to transform component of this character. In the rotation we're gonna set the y-axis to 180. As you can see, whenever we set the y-axis to 180, it's facing left, okay, it's facing left. So facing right became false. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna set it to 0 by default, okay. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go over to transform, okay. We need to go to transform, then Euler angles, okay. Euler angles equal to new vector 3, okay, new vector 3. As we know, vector 3 has three component, three axis, x axis, y axis, and the z axis. As we know, we need to set the y axis to -180 degree, so it will face toward left. So we have to set 180 f minus 180 f, okay. So it will face left. We need to set the 0 f in the, we're not gonna change in this x axis or y axis in the rotation. So if we head over to unity, if we go to transform on this player game object, and if we set the y rotation, okay, we need to go to rotation, and then if we set 180, as you can see the player looking in the left direction. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna set the facing right to false, because we are no longer facing right, we are facing left, okay. So what we're gonna do, by default we're gonna set to 0. So what we're gonna do, so as you can see, we are going to transform, then Euler angles, basically we going to angles, and we are setting the y axis to -180. So this will face left. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna set facing right, okay. We're gonna set the facing right to false, because we are no longer facing to the right direction, okay, right direction, we are facing left. Whenever we set this 180, it will face left, so we are no longer facing right, okay. So that's the thing, or that's the logic over here. As you can see, when the movement becomes lesser than 0f, so as we know, if I press the minus sorry, a key, so this the movement will be -1. Okay, -1, which we know, which is lesser than 0f. And if we press facing the right direction, if we facing the right direction, if we press a key, so it will go to left direction, which left direction. So what we are doing, we are setting, we are rotating the character in the left direction, sorry, left. So we are no longer facing right, so we are setting the facing right to false. Okay, so as you see, as you can see, so this both condition should be true. When it's true, in this bracket whatever we write, it's became it will execute. So control s on your keyboard and head over to Unity. Okay, head over to Unity. You will able to see, whenever we press the a key, it will go to it will face toward left direction. This transform and rotation in the y-axis will be 180, because we set 180. Okay, just wait for to compile and you will able to see that. Okay, if I hit play, if I hit play, you will able to see the y-axis become -180 or 180. Okay, uh, so if I press the D key, it's going right. Okay, if I press the A key, as you can see, the character flip to the left direction. Okay, character flip the left direction, and as you can see, the facing right became unticked or false. Okay, false. And you can see the rotation in the y of this transform 180. 180. Let's suppose we press the D key once more, but we are not looking facing to the right direction. If I press the D key, as you can see, we stuck in the left direction. So we also need to check, we're gonna do over here, else if. Okay, else if movement, okay, movement is greater than 0f, movement is greater than 0f, and we are not facing right. Okay, facing right equals to false, sorry, equals to false. Okay, equals to false. Basically movement is 0f. Okay, movement. So I will explain this about this in the next video, because it's already half of time. Okay, so I'm gonna explain this in the next video. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video and learn something about Unity game engine and the C# coding. Okay, if you are new to my channel, then subscribe it for future tutorials. Okay, and if you want to support me, you can support on patreon.com. Okay, and lastly, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, like this and share it with your friend who just want to learn who Unity game engine. Okay, and lastly, thanks for watching this video. I hope you get the idea.